Hello everyone, I'm Keenan47, aka Wolfking, and welcome to the final A Wolf's Word special covering E3. This time around is going to be my recap, aka my top 5 of the press conferences. Now I want to apologize for my previous video. I was very tired because I was cranking out the E3 videos last night and I stood up all the way to about 5 a.m. so I didn't get a lot of rest. And I had to wake up early to catch Nintendo's I would say meeting, I wouldn't say conference, so I had to wake up early, which was around 9 o'clock, so I've only got like 4 hours of sleep in my body, and that's not really good for me. So if I still seem a little out of it, I'm sorry, I'm just tired as all crap, so I'm just going to try to be as enthusiastic as I can, even though I'm completely hammered at the moment, aka tired. Don't try to say I'm drunk. Anyways, this is going to be a recap of E3. We've seen 5 press conferences from E3. We saw Microsoft with the Xbox One, we saw EA, we saw Ubisoft, we saw Sony with the PS4, and we saw Nintendo with the Wii U. So let's talk about the conferences, and let's see which of them are the best. So I'm going to count them out from 5 to 1. Now, let me say this right now. If I put it at 5, that doesn't mean it was a bad conference. It means it was a weak conference. I'm doing this from weakest to strongest. So this way people don't say, oh, you hate this, oh, you hate that. No, I just felt the conference was very weak compared to later conferences. So let's get started. So we have 5 conferences to talk about, like I said. Sony, Microsoft, EA, Ubisoft, and Nintendo. In my eyes, who had the best conference? Let's see. At number 5, I know a lot of people are going to give me a lot of flack for this one, but at number 5, I'm going to have to give it to Ubisoft. Let's face it, guys, Ubisoft did not wow us as much as they could have. Ubisoft was this legendary company for some of their, award-winning titles like Splinter Cell, Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon, and other stuff like that. And it just seems like over time, Ubisoft has lost a lot of steam and momentum. I mean, Ghost Recon Future Soldier was an okay game, but it just didn't, it didn't do very well in the multiplayer aspect. It could have been a lot better in the multiplayer aspect. Single player was really good, especially with the drop-in, drop-out co-op. Phew for that. But the Ubisoft press conference was very weak when it came to its games. They gave us a couple of games that we already knew about, like Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and said, this is the ultimate dream of people. We get to be pirates. Everybody's always wished to be a pirate. How do you know everybody's always wished to be a pirate? But that's not the point. Then they tried to say, oh, here's some actual gameplay of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Let me move the camera. Wow, I messed up. Okay, that's good. Nah, but get me, like, they were like, oh, look at Assassin's Creed 4 gameplay, actual gameplay of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, when it was just pre-rendered cutscenes. We got some actual gameplay later on, but I'm not going to tell you from which press conference yet. But that's the problem. They didn't give us actual gameplay. They gave us pre-rendered cutscenes, which is why I got upset about it. I think there were only 2 games from Ubisoft that seemed aesthetically appealing. Let me go to the notepad real quick so I can actually bring them up because I don't quite remember. Remember, I did just wake up, so I'm not exactly in the right state of mind. Okay, the only games that looked aesthetically appealing to me is The Crew and The Division. I'm sorry to say, but The Crew and The Division were the only 2 games from Ubisoft that actually caught my attention. The Crew being the fact that it's this large world racing game where you can actually play with your friends and other crap like that. And The Division because it's this MMO survival game in many cases. Like, it's this MMO tactical survival game. Because it really does catch my attention. The Division and The Crew actually catch my attention. And it looks like these are going to be really cool IPs when Ubisoft actually releases them. Though, what console they're coming out for, I don't know. I really hope The Division comes to PS4 since that is the console I will be buying. So, I really hope The Division and The Crew come to PS4 because I would probably buy a copy. So, the Ubisoft, you could have done a lot better this year. You really could have. You kind of lost a little bit. So, Ubisoft is at number 5. At number 4, and please do not get upset with me when I say this one, but at number 4 is going to be Microsoft. Yes, I said it. Microsoft is the second weakest conference in E3. I know a lot of people say, oh, you're a Sony fanboy, you're being a fanboy. No, I'm not. You want to know why Xbox was the weakest conference? Because they did not answer any of the questions that we've been having for the longest. Think about it. When we were done with that previous press conference that they didn't answer any of our questions about the 24-hour DRM. They didn't answer any of our questions about the used game policy or anything like that. Did they answer any of these questions at E3? No, they did not. They put it on the back burner and just talked about games, smart glass. And let's face it, they talked more about smart glass than they did the actual games. Most of the time, they say, oh, with the power of Xbox Smart Glass, you can do this with your game. You can check your stats. You can start your game. You can do this. You can do that. Who cares about Smart Glass? Like, honestly, who cares about Smart Glass, to be honest? And the second problem that I have with Microsoft is that most to all of their games are not exclusives. The only exclusives that they've got is Killer Instinct, Sunset Overdrive, Quantum Break, which we don't even know what the hell that game is about. They still didn't give us no information about it. Minecraft, I don't know if D4 is an exclusive. Project Spark, we don't even know anything about Crimson Dragon because there's no sound. And Dead Rising 3. Like, there's so many games on here that are actually going to be, you know, cross-platform. There's a lot of games on here that are going to be cross-platform. They tried to lie to us and say, oh, Metal Gear Solid, The Phantom Pain is going to be exclusive to Microsoft, and then we found out later it's not. I'm trying to figure out, like, how many games is Microsoft actually going to make, because they showed us 16 of them, and honestly, most of them are cross-platform, which is really stupid. And one of the biggest problems that I have with Microsoft is that they're not indie-friendly. Like, remember the 360, how they had an indie channel? Microsoft didn't talk once about the indie games. They're like, oh, we like to show support for indie games, so here's 2 indie games. How is that showing indie support? You only gave us 2 indie games. One that we've already seen in both PC and on Xbox 360, and one that looks like Limbo. It looks like they're taking from Limbo, if you ask my honest opinion. So I really don't know what's the matter with Microsoft. Like their conference was very weak. The only reason that's better than Ubisoft is because most of their games were interesting. Dead Rising 3 caught my interest. Sunset Overdrive caught my interest. Project Spark caught my interest. Titanfall caught my interest. Like, these are the kind of games that actually caught my interest in Microsoft. So I actually liked more of the games on Microsoft's end than I did Ubisoft's end. And the biggest problem that I have with Microsoft is that they're still not answering any of these questions. Yes, I heard a rumor that they are going to reevaluate their business practices and probably get rid of the 24-hour DRM and the used game policy. But let me say something. Are they going to do this before the console gets released? I don't think so. I think they're going to keep it after the console gets released and then backpedal to get rid of it. Get me? Like, they're going to see how much they can get away with before finally backpedaling to fix their issues. And you know this as well as I do. So Microsoft is number 4 in my list. Number 3, and I know a lot of people are going to get upset with me on this one again, Nintendo. What? You put Nintendo over Microsoft? How dare you? Okay. That's a good way to wreck your voice. But anyways, yes, Nintendo is the middle ground in the conferences. It's better than Microsoft. You want to know why? I know Nintendo still has that content ID bullcrap going on in the background, but Nintendo gave us a whole slew of games. I'm going to go back to the notepad right now and look it up real quick, because I still have it. Nintendo gave us 23 Wii U games. Gave us 11 games they could buy on the eShop, and gave us 7 games they could buy on the 3DS. All of the games on the 3DS are exclusive, and they are most of them are good IPs. Like, I already talked about this in my Nintendo video, but most to all of Nintendo's games are very interesting, but only a few actually caught my interest because I'm not much of a Nintendo person anymore. If I was to say games that caught my interest, on the 3DS it would be Pokemon X and Y, Shin Megami Tensei 4, and of course Super Smash Bros. On the 3DS. eShop, I don't know much about them. On the Wii U, the only games that caught my interest were Super Mario 3D World, Mario Kart 8, Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut. Yes, I would actually get that for the Wii U. Rayman Legends. I would probably get Rayman Legends. I don't know how Watch Dogs will work on a Wii U, but it might be a cool idea if you think about it. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, and of course Super Smash Bros. On the Wii U. The Wii U had a lot more to offer, but there were a couple of problems that I had. They did not once address their console. And this kind of left a lot of issues with the console. Like, are they going to be able to run the current day engines? Because there's been a lot of rumors saying that Nintendo's console cannot run current day engines, like Unreal Engine 3, like the new Unreal Engine, Frostbite 3, and other stuff like that. Like, it's been proven that they can't do it. But at least they don't have any BS around them like Microsoft does. They're not, in a bad state, but at the same time, they're just not there. They're kind of like standing in the background while Microsoft just got knocked out. So right now, I'm saying Nintendo is better than Microsoft's press conference because they focused on the games, they focused on games that we want to play, and they have a ton of exclusives. There is no lying that their exclusives are freaking massive. I think they have more exclusives than Sony, and that's saying a lot. But there's not enough information on their console, and their console is still rather weak. So Wii U, I'm definitely putting it at Nintendo press conference. I'm putting it at number 3. At number 2, oh boy, here we go, the big 2. Number 2 is EA. The reason why I say EA is at number 2 is because EA had the most impressive press conference. I mean, seriously. EA was probably one of my favorite press conferences of the whole event because of the amount of games that they showed off. EA showed off a lot of games. Well, not really as much as Nintendo. They only showed us 12 games, but all of these games are guaranteed to sell. Get me? Like, all these games are guaranteed to sell to every audience. Well, most audiences. Like Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare? Who wouldn't want to play that? I want that. That is a freaking great game. Titanfall, which they said is supposed to be on all consoles. I would love that game. Star Wars Battlefront. I would love that game. Need for Speed, Dragon Age, sports games. You get what I mean? Like, EA gave us the most for our game. Like, they gave us the most games that people would want to buy and people would be interested in, which is why I liked EA's press conference a lot, and I put it at number 2. Because EA's press conference, not only did they focus on the games and the gamers themselves, they focused on games that we want. You get me, right? They focused on games that we want. And there were rumors of a talk about a new game. We were asking for it. And guess what? They gave it to us. Battlefront. They gave us a new Battlefront. Star Wars Battlefront. They are bringing back the Star Wars Battlefront franchise, and it's being made by DICE, the makers of Battlefield 4. Not only that, EA gave us a multiplayer tech demo of the Battlefield 4 multiplayer. They showed us how the multiplayer works, they showed us how the commander mode will work, and they showed us how good the gameplay looks as well as the graphics. See, this is what I mean. This is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, wheel people in. Like, reel them in. You're supposed to reel people in, so this way people want to buy your games and actually want to defend you. I think EA did a substantial job with their press conference, and that's being brutally honest. And personal points to Mirror's Edge 2. I mean, seriously, they announced it, and you know how many people are happy for that. So, with that said, what's my number 1? I think you already know. The number 1 press conference, in my personal opinion, is Sony. There is no denying the fact that Sony absolutely blew their press conference right out of the water. I was worried at first because it felt like Sony was going the same route as Microsoft, talking about programs instead of games, but then they actually focused on the games, and Sony gave us a lot of games. They gave us at least 16 games to look forward to, and at least 8 games on the PS3 to still look forward to. And let's face it, all these games on the PS4 are going to guarantee a sell in some case, because most of these are launch titles. The Order, launch title. Killzone Shadowfall, launch title. Drive Club, launch title. Knack, launch title. Like, most of these games are very interesting. Infamous Second Son, Dark Sorcerer, Final Fantasy freaking 15, Kingdom Hearts 3, Transistor, Diablo 3, Assassin's Creed 4, which they actually gave us a demo of it. Yes, it froze up, but I don't know if that's because of the console or the game itself, but they gave us an actual demo of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. They gave us an actual demo of Watch Dogs. They have Elder Scrolls Online coming to freaking PS4, so I don't have to buy a new PC. They got Mad Max coming to PS4, and they even got the new Destiny game made by Bungie, I think, made by Bungie and Activision. They got the new Destiny game coming to PS4, and it's actually going to play like an MMO in many cases. Hell, even the PS3 games are getting some good games. They're getting The Last of Us. We're getting Puppeteer. We're getting Rain. We're getting Beyond Two Souls, Gran Turismo, Batman Arkham. There's so many games. There's so many games that Sony announced that it's all going to guarantee a sell. Like, Sony announced games that we're all going to buy and we're all going to want, which is a good thing. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to give us games that we all want and we all want to buy. But the most important thing that Sony did is that not only did they say we're going to have improvements on the new programs, we're not going to have to worry about signing in every 24 hours. We're not going to have to worry about the used game policy. We can buy and sell and trade our used games if we want to. We can lend our games to our friends. We don't have to sign in every 24 hours, otherwise we lose gaming privileges. We can play offline if we want to. Sony blew it completely out of the water and completely decimated any other conference. This is why I feel like Sony was the best conference in E3. They completely did it. They blew it out of the water. And the price? $400? That's a freaking steal. Think about it. It's been 7 years since the PS3, and the PS3 was $300. I thought the PS4 and the Xbox One, was going to be like $700, $600. Well, the PS4 would be around that price too. Instead, it's $400. You can't say that's not a good price. I'm sorry, but you can't say that's not a good price, and it's running stronger software. It's been proven that the PS4 will be running stronger software compared to 360. Sorry, not 360, Xbox One. So, really, there's no contest. Sony completely blew this press conference right out of the freaking water, and I am amazed that Sony was able to pull this off. This was an amazing E3. I freaking loved it. I know E3 is not over. There's a bunch of tech demos and stuff like that, but these press conferences absolutely killed it for me. Like, I'm glad that the gaming industry is looking up. Like, it's actually looking better now that we know that we have a company that's actually listening to us. And look at Sony. They're independent friendly. So that means independent companies will get their shot at making games with the new indie channel on the PS4. I know a lot of people are upset about the fact that you have to pay for Sony's internet now with PlayStation Plus, but is that really such a bad thing? We're paying less than Microsoft, that's one. And number two, we get free games every month. You shouldn't be complaining. Like, honestly, we get free games every month. I got Infamous 2 for free thanks to PlayStation Plus. Honestly, we get free games every month. Microsoft just now started that. But Sony's been doing this for a year now at least. So, makes sense. So basically, there's not much I could say. Sony is definitely the strongest conference of E3 this year. This was probably one of my favorite E3s so far. I really don't know how they're going to top it next year. But hopefully, they will come up with something good for next year E3. Since, we'll have the new generation consoles. So everybody, thank you all for watching my Wolf's Word specials of E3. If you watched every single video, you are awesome. And I guess I'll see you all next time for my next video. So this has been Keen947, aka Wolfkeen, and this has been a Wolf's Word special covering E3. So until next time, take care.